We have a couple examples that are very clear cut over the years where we went in and looked at some equipment that was not functional, found significant water contamination on one small portion of that equipment, even like where the wires connect to the contactors, and identified that removing that contamination would likely allow that equipment to return to partial or full functionality. And so the restoration, like Bob's saying, allowed it to be further tested by removing that contamination. And sure enough, after that happened, that testing occurred, the one or two parts that were damaged could be replaced, and the equipment was returned to full functionality. But the first person who attempted to turn it on, it wasn't doing what it was supposed to. So they assumed that's a total loss. So getting in there, putting a set of eyes on it, understanding how that piece of equipment works, and if water's on a certain part of it, it can affect the operation of the remainder, but it doesn't mean that the remainder is actually damaged. It's just not allowed to operate the way it needs to.
Just to add to that, also, some of that stabilization really comes into play again in smoke situations where you may have active corrosion that could start forming after a short amount of time. So really to get in there and stabilize the equipment by removing the contamination, and now we don't have a time factor that we're battling against. We know the equipment's going to not going to continue to spiral into worse and worse condition. It's stabilized, it could be evaluated, and the proper steps could be taken.
Hey, you've mentioned removing contamination a couple times, right? Which is important in the restoration process. How do you go about doing that? Can you talk a little bit about the ways to remove contamination from these items?
Yeah, I mean it's a very physical process, and quite honestly, the restoration process requires equipment to be disassembled, oftentimes down to its frame, and it is a physical washing process. So utilizing specialized detergents, specialized water, we're able to wash the equipment, use agitating things like brushes to help to remove contamination, blow dry it with compressed air, and making sure there's not any kind of a static issue, putting it into a convection oven where it's baked out for a certain period of time to help to verify that all the water is off the boards and off the equipment, doing a hand wipe to spot clean different areas to verify no contamination and no water spotting is present, reassembling that equipment, and then turning it back on. So it's a very, very physical process. But through this process, we're really able to not only remove the contaminant, but also understand better what we're dealing with. And if we see any other issues, such as signs of power surge or signs of corrosion, that we could then tell the engineer, who will then make sure that those types of issues are resolved. Because we walk into a situation dealing with equipment of unknown condition with unknown issues. And at the end of our process, we will return that equipment to its pre-loss condition. And it's important to drill down that when we say pre-loss condition, that means that not only will the equipment look the same and smell the same, but it's going to operate the same. And even going one step further, if the insured had a service contract or maintenance agreement on that equipment, we're going to ensure that that equipment is back to its pre-loss condition and all those agreements are back in place. So we truly do work to verify that everything is at its pre-loss condition. And oftentimes we bring in vendors and bring in experts to help us with that process, because it is a big process, especially when you think about all the different types of equipment that we deal with on a regular basis.